G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL Fantasy Podcast. It doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players that are going to bring value to your draft Keeper League teams. My name's Hef and I'm only joined by my co-host Kays after we tweeted out we were going to have a special guest on tonight and he bailed on us at the last minute. What's going on there, Kays?
How rude.
Very, very rude. We kind of needed a third person on because neither of us could watch a heap of footy over the weekend, and our mate Zanks from AFL Stats, mate, he kindly said he'd come on and then, took all day to get his notes done and then bailed at the last minute. So, everyone out there, go and unfollow AFL Stats, mate.
Oh, that's cold, Hef. That's cold.
Oh, he's redundant anyway. He was the CBA tweeter and now the AFL app's got him in there. So, you don't need AFL Stats, mate.
Zanks do it like real quick?
Well, not as quick as these guys do it, that's for sure. Because it's out straight off the game. No, I'm just kidding. Zanks. Look, the fact that you're not here probably makes the podcast better. Nah. God, I'm just being... I'm in a mood
real
tonight.
Bone to pick.
I'm in a real
grumpy
mood
man.
because I lost the podcast's final to Kays this week. So
yes.
I tweeted out my teams. I think the general consensus was that my team looked a lot stronger than Kays's, and I had Mills laid out. I had Hearn go down. I had Bowes get omitted. And
Bowes played at the end.
Oh, no, it's so annoying. I think if I would have actually played him... Oh
no, you wouldn't have.
No, I wouldn't have. But if all three of those had got their averages, I would have won quite easily.
The final score was 1578 to 1710. Led admirably by my boy Jack Steele, 139 points as captain. And then look, all the guys off the bench coming at 116. Matty Kennedy, 94.
Every loophole you hit. Exactly.
Harry Schomburg stepped up to the plate with a 90.
That was a good one.
Jai Simpkin continues his great form. Nick Newman decided to play good footy. Dan Houston's probably doubled his average from the last month.
When you see things like that coming up against you, you just wonder the fantasy gods.
But I had to carry James Warple and Ed Langdon this week, and they still,
Yeah,
just a real stirring team win. We're going to lose this week to the DT Keeper League.
Of course, you should have lost last week.
He basically scores 2,000 each week, so I'm properly cooked. But there's miracles happen.
Yeah,
and to be honest, I'm happy to end the season because you've bagged my team all year, Hef, and
it's because it deserves it. It's because
that means you're worse than the worst team in the league. Then
no, I just got unlucky for 1 week. That's
here
all
we
that
go. Got unlucky. Blah blah blah.
3 players go out.
My boys lifted to the occasion.
Yeah, sure. How did your Whitfield versus Howe go this week, mate?
So
you're still stoked that you've got
Howe over
Whitfield?
Howe had 67, so that's
Whitfield
not too bad.
What, 112?
Yeah, look, we don't always look at those things.
How'd your Sonny Walters versus McCluggage go this week?
I should have brought Sonny in as a loophole cover, then he would have technically got me an 81.
This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm losing to, people that make those trades, and this is what I go down to.
People who keep the league interesting.
Yeah, sure.
And I could win again. You can't win this year. I could.
No, I don't think you can somehow.
Statistically, I'm a chance.
Anyways, you went down in your the home league as well.
That was tough.
Which was great to see. Funnily enough, you had Shannon Hearn, which cost me, and you had Liam Duggan, and you had someone else that I had, didn't you?
And Callum Mills pulled out.
Callum Mills and Bowes.
I don't have Bowes anymore.
Oh, you traded him. That's right. And you traded Schoenberg too, didn't you?
Yep.
We didn't make enough of that actually when it happened. So you've traded your boys out in the home league. That's not very good. So you're a fraud when you keep talking up those boys.
It's called trying to win.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're not doing too well.
I just didn't play very well on the weekend. I only had 2 guys score tons. McRae and Lyons. Everyone else was...
You had a lot of late outs.
Oh, lucky I saw that because they only tweeted that Callum Mills pulled out 10 minutes before the game, and I'd already played my loophole, used my loophole option, so it would have been a donut.
Yeah.
But luckily I could sneak. Was it Dane Rampy or someone in there? So lucky.
Anyway, half the country is in lockdown, so I thought we'd just do a bit of a quick shout out to all the listeners out there stuck in lockdown, and hopefully this podcast can help you get through a little bit.
Do you know what else gets you through?
What gets you through?
20% off Remedy Kombucha.
Absolutely. That'd get me through, especially if you can't leave your house, and you can get it delivered to your door for free. So,
heck yeah.
If you want to get some free delivery on your Remedy Kombucha and get 20% off in the meantime, head to remedy.com/au/shop and use the coupon Keeper20 at checkout. Score yourself 20% off Remedy Kombucha and, get some free shipping there as well. And, in lockdown, you can probably Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever you use in your area. What's the other one? Menulog. And there's another one.
Deliveroo.
What's it called?
Deliveroo.
I was going to say Uberu. That's not a real thing.
Uberu is when they finally buy each other out.
Yeah. They team up to bring you your food. But yeah, you probably get some Zambreros on any one of your food delivery service as well. We don't have a coupon for that, but we do give away 2 vouchers to lucky winners each week. I'm not sure actually how you'd go about using a voucher in lockdown because you probably can't visit the restaurant.
They wouldn't expire for a long time. We'd
probably, well, if you're in Blair Athol, you can get the drive-through one. You could probably
heck yeah.
Pop it in
Just
there.
say you're going out for a test.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you can get food. That's essential. Drive-throughs are open, I think. It's just that you can't go into shops. I don't know. Maybe let us know if we're talking shit or not. We're not
You're definitely
in
talking
lockdown.
shit, Hef. There's no doubt about that.
Weren't drive-throughs open when we were in lockdown a few weeks ago?
No, I didn't try one.
Bottle shops were open.
Well, they're essential.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, each week we announce a winner for 2 Zambrero vouchers. Who's the winner this week, Case?
This week it is Carla Copeland from Wembley Downs in WA.
Now, Wembley is where they play the tennis tournament, right, Case? Wembley
What?
Downs?
Wembley?
It's a joke.
That's Wimbledon.
It's a joke.
I thought you meant like where they play soccer games
Oh, sorry.
and stuff.
Not Wimbledon. Yeah, sorry. Wembley is where they play FA Cup soccer games.
Yeah.
I read that wrong. Sorry.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's right. Anyway. That's
Grumpy and can't read tonight.
great joke. Totally ruined.
So where's he going with that? My sport knowledge is pretty good. But it is near a golf course.
Oh, of course it is. All right,
Wembley
that's
Golf
what we
Course.
know.
It's just
Yep.
near Scarborough. Beautiful place in Perth.
Yeah, cool.
Have you been to Perth yet?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to
That's
hear
right. Subiaco.
Yeah, I went to Subiaco to watch Port lose to Freo by 5 points, round 1 of 2015, where Jasper Pittard turned it over in the corridor, gifting, I can't remember who it was, but gifting Fremantle a goal. So,
What do they do at Subiaco these days?
the
Oval.
I have no idea. Probably turning it into housing like they do with Amy Stadium. Anyways, we're I think 6 minutes
Digress.
into the podcast, so we better get going. But yeah, if you want to enter, we've only got 2 more vouchers to give away. So next week's your last chance to win the competition. So if you want to join the competition, get in the running, head to keeperleaguepod.com.au/Zambreros to sign up. All right, moving on to the round rewind. Now, let's preface this case. Neither of us were able to watch an abundance of football on the weekend, hence why we enlisted the help of Zanks for this show, and partly because he's stuck in Adelaide and can't get back to Melbourne. So, but yeah, he bailed. So he wrote out some notes for us, but we didn't watch any of the games that he did notes on. So
I watched some of the Gold Coast game
Okay.
while I was watching my boys Walkerville on the weekend. So I have a bit of a gut feel about some of that stuff.
I think I actually would have driven past you. Was that at down at Smosh?
It was down
West
at
Lakes?
Smosh.
Yeah, I drove past there. I saw Walkerville playing. Didn't stop in.
This is how big he's become.
had other
Everyone.
things to do.
How big he's become. He won't even come and visit, amateur league football anymore. The big Hollywood.
I had a few things to do today. My first weekend at
Signing
lockdown.
autographs
All right, give me a
or
break.
what were you doing?
All right. I was actually going to a mate's place to watch the showdown and get on the beers and have some food. But anyway, let's get stuck in. So Geelong versus GWS, that was on Friday. I watched this one, so we'll actually know what we're talking about in this game. Reece Stanley had 109 points and always said he was a solid ruck. Whether he's best 22, that's the big issue. But when he's playing, he's worth fielding. So if you struggle at ruck 1 in the ruck department, Reece Stanley is a guy you can always count on. If he is playing, he generally goes okay. Jake Kolajasny had 95 points. He kicked the first goal. I think it was his first goal of his career as well. So he snuck forward for that one.
I wonder how much he was paying.
Oh God, it would have been a lot. There was a funny, there was like a meme where the bar erupts.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. But anyway, yeah. He pushed up pretty high this week, actually. It was kind of like floating along there, across the wings kind of a fair bit. Just getting involved in the chip arounds and things like that. And, when Geelong kind of possessed the ball when they set up for attacks. Lots of little +6s in there. But he's averaging 53, so he need to do this a lot more often to be considered properly. Jed Buse had 91 points, and he's one that's actually backed up a ton last week with a 91 this week case. So he's getting a heap more touches out of defence over the past few weeks. Had 70 kicks and 6 handballs in this game. And he seems to be in the right place at the right time. Just, those missed kicks that are just ending up in his lap. Missed handballs that he's just running through and yoinking them out and getting on the counter. So he also got involved in the +6s as well that Geelong do just because they couldn't really move the ball the way they wanted to against GWS in a game that they lost. So they were chipping around a lot to try to build their attacks, and he got involved in those a little bit too. I think if he scores well next week, we're going to have to take a good look at him. I don't know if it happens, and I can't see him being a long-term scorer, but it's just his scoring's, he's put up 2 good scores. He's just getting hard to ignore now. If he does it 3 times in a row, then we'll definitely have to be thinking about it. So just make sure you're on top of it in terms of your waiver wire pickups and stuff like that. And if any of your league mates are looking to pounce, you might want to go and get him first. Jordan Clark had 79 points, and it's just good to see him back in the side. Playing on a wing allowed him to get up and down the ground, snuck forward and kicked a goal later on in the game as well. He's always teased, but he's never delivered. So if he can put in a good run to finish off the season, he might force some coaches to make some difficult decisions when it comes to keeping him.
So he's 40% owned at the moment.
Yep.
Would you have a little play at him? And he was on the ground for 66% of the game as well. So, he's going to get traded, isn't he?
You'd hope so.
So would you pick him up if you were, you're out of contention and kind of looking to add an extra keeper for next year? Is he in that mould yet?
He wouldn't be in my top 16.
Okay.
No, so probably not. In a deeper one, yeah, probably would. But yeah, not in ours. Don't think there's any point. Sam Taylor had 103 points.
Now we're talking.
And he is an emerging star key defender. I don't think there's much doubt about that at the moment. He's so composed under pressure. He gave Tom Hawkins just a bit of a bath. Took some great marking defence. Sat in front of Hawkins, that really frustrated him as well. Probably was pretty pivotal into them winning the game. Probably pivotal in me losing to you as well, because I had Hawkins in my forward line who barely got near it.
Sam knew.
Look, we know he has a ceiling. Like, he's had 3 tons this year. My only concern is he's only averaging 73 from his last 5. And the reason for that is because he either just goes 100 or 50 over the last few weeks. So never anywhere in between at the moment. So you take 70 average from a key defender, though. And I think that's probably what he'll go at for the remainder of his career. But that's pretty good for a key defender. So yeah, they're just not players I like to draft because you're consistently just trying to stream them. Instead of, I'd rather just have someone who gets 70 every week and averages 70 rather than someone that goes 50, 100, 60, 90.
He's literally going 150, 150, 50, 100.
Yeah. So it's like...
So it's consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, consistently good and then consistently bad. So I know, you like getting up and about on...
I like him.
You like week to week. You look at week-to-week performances and you get up about,
I like him.
Like early on when Harry Schoenberg was just getting 100 in, with a million 50s and you go, oh, the doubters, I've proved them wrong now. You probably have proved the doubters.
90.
You have proved the doubters wrong now, probably.
Yes.
At the time, it was looking pretty unlikely. You like to jump on
gut
early.
feels, man. You got to back in with gut feel.
Exactly.
The Oracle doesn't miss.
I'm just wanting this season to be over so we can just go back to you making all the bad calls and yeah.
It's a new thing.
I hope not. Anyway, let's move on.
TikTok. It's just here to stay.
It's a new fad. Kieran Briggs, 79 points. Saw him in the number 1 ruck roll. I stuffed it up again. I stuffed it on the Waiver Wire podcast. I'm going to stuff it up here. Ruck roll. Won the hit-outs for the night. He had 20 hit-outs, and the issue with it is him. He wasn't playing a great ruck, so he's playing at Reece Stanley, so he doesn't win a lot of the rucks. Ruck taps, he's pretty ineffective in there. But then also as well, he's not going to be the number 1 ruck long term either. So I don't know. He might develop into a key position forward that kind of does pinch hit in the ruck, but everyone talks about those guys are gold, but there's heaps of them out there that don't score that well. So I don't know. I don't love him for fantasy. That's all I'm trying to say.
It's a weird one because I was watching a bit of this game and even reading things after, everyone's like, Shane Mumford's going to mentor Kieran Briggs and he's going to become the next ruckman, blah, blah, blah. But you do realise that Flynn's out. They've got Bruce as well. Although Briggs was a very successful and very good fantasy junior ruckman though.
Yeah.
But I kind of get that same feeling he's almost third in line for that particular role.
Yeah. How tall is he? He doesn't look like as tall as the other ruckman in the comp, that's all. But maybe that's just because he's thicker too. I don't know.
The old thick ruckman.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting how big's Shane Mumford as well.
Yeah. I don't know.
Kieran Briggs is, drum roll Hef, how big do you think he is?
I think he's I'm going to go with 198.
He's 200 centimetres.
Okay, yeah. And what's Shane Mumford then? I want to look up Shane Mumford high here. 199. It's about the same size. I don't know. It just doesn't look as big as Mumford. But anyway, he's bigger than Mumford. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but we'll move on.
He needs to look bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take over Zanks' notes for the Carlton Gold Coast game.
Good luck.
Nick Newman had 117 points, probably on the borderline of 2 G4P, but saying that he was on the... in our draft at the start of the year, obviously coming off the injury. He's played every game since round 9 and averaging 85. Always been a pretty good back. I suppose 28 years old, where does he kind of sit for most teams? Is he a guy you're locking in at Carlton? They've got a few half-back flankers. Is he going to stay there long-term?
Well, I don't know. Unfortunately, we heard about Sam Doherty yesterday, so he might be out for a little while. Not that that's a good thing for anyone, but that might open a spot for him a bit longer. I don't know. Carlton couldn't play any worse than he's scoring. He's going okay. So I think there's a spot for him. He's always been a decent fantasy scorer.
He always has been.
Yeah. If he's playing, you probably want to have him on the field, that's for sure.
Yep.
Whether he holds that spot long term, probably jury's still out a little bit, but he's not doing too many things wrong at the moment.
No. Mark Murphy, interestingly, has down here, was the green vest and didn't get on the ground. Now, we're pretty keen on the old milestone game player. Can he just dominate this week? I've got him as my streamer of the week, I think, later in the pod, because milestone game, Carlton's season's over. They're playing Port this week, aren't they?
Yeah, who are the hardest fantasy team to score against. One of the hardest.
But, is it really going to be much of a game? Carlton, they've obviously thrown in the towel.
Yeah.
He's playing his 300th game. He's playing his final ever game. Surely that's at least good for an 80.
Yeah, probably. He'll probably get a few goals. I'll probably look for him up forward, I reckon. So he'll kick a couple. Yeah, I'd back him in for an 80.
I reckon this is the time. If this is
farewell game.
We talk about this each year, that there's the retirement game, the farewell game.
Yeah.
We're going to get our first taste of it this week with Mark Murphy. You got someone like Chris Mayne next week. There's a couple coming, so just keep an eye on him.
Yep.
He's also mentioned that Paddy Dow didn't score too well. Hef, is this true? I didn't see the stats.
I think he got 37. I hate getting lumped in with Paddy Dow. I was never super keen on him. The reason why I was in that video is because Dos couldn't sing the backing vocals, so I had to do it. But and I've actually, if you go through my Twitter, I've denounced him earlier in the season, so I keep coughing it. I shouldn't have done that bloody song.
No, you shouldn't have.
The 100,000 views it got over the platform was probably worth it.
Do you regret dropping, all those players that we always talk about each week, or doing the Paddy Dow video more?
No, I'd rather do the Paddy Dow video. Paddy Dow video is good for business. Yeah.
It was a very good video. It's just unfortunate you couldn't have picked a better player. Onto the Suns, Will Power. He had 138 points and 21 kicks, 7 handballs, 8 marks, 7 tackles. And even, he actually watched that goal with Zanks at the game. Just slotted it from the boundary, an absolute beautiful banana, went through. He is just taking his game to the next level. Probably bump someone like a Jack Bowes out of that particular, running halfback role.
Good. I hope he never plays again after his omission from the team this week, ruining my game against you.
Well, he did score 68 points in 55% game time.
But I would have played him on the ground if he actually played.
No one really is sobbing for you, Hef. I think you got to understand that.
I know.
The good guy won.
I'm sobbing for myself.
Will Power is probably one we didn't see coming this much. We know that he has shown a bit of a ceiling in the past, but he took it to the next level on the weekend. Braden Ferrerini, 119 points. Obviously, we've kind of 2G for Pete him, Hef.
Yeah, why is he here? Does Zach not know how this works?
I don't know. Maybe it's his first time listening to the pod.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Are you going to? Would you keep Ferrerini? You've 16 players. Are you keeping him?
You got to, yeah. When he scores like that, you're not going to be putting him back in the pool.
It's true. And lastly, Jeremy Sharp had 88 Dream Team points, 19 touches with 12 kicks and 7 handballs. Look, got around the ground beautifully, took 9 marks and had 3 tackles. So I reckon that they've found one. He was only drafted by 4% of teams at the start of the season. Obviously, the mighty Not Much Chop being one. Now he's up to 80%. So what would you do with him? I'm in the lucky position with someone like Jeremy Sharp, and we see this quite often with kids in their second year or third year, where they're kind of on the precipice of being, they're showing some really, really good fantasy signs. Potentially, you could throw a Harry Schoenberg in that mix, or a Luke Jackson. You're saying Schoenberg's not an automatic keeper in your team? Oh, you don't own him anymore. That's right, you traded him. But when you've got maybe 12, 15, 16 keepers, where do you draw the line on someone like a Jeremy Sharp?
You've got to keep Jeremy Sharp after what he's shown in the start of this year. It definitely. It's he's miles ahead of where Schoenberg was after the same number of games, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So players like this, generally, if they can score like this early in their game tally in their careers, I'm saying careers, but he's a second-year player. But after 5 or 6, what's he played? Probably a bit more than that.
7 or 8 games now.
Yeah, 9. Yeah. To score like that early, there's something special there. I think.
True.
Yeah.
I'm very happy, and I think if you are, you can always find room for one of those younger guys on your keeper list. So
absolutely,
I'd be sticking with J Sharp for sure. Richmond, North Melbourne. Jack Graham had 146 points after I basically gave him a rocket last week saying he's no good. He really came out and showed me I'm wrong. 36 touches, 23 kicks. We obviously have 8 marks and 8 tackles. Look, I don't really know what to do with Jack Graham. I would hate to be a Jack Graham owner because, yes, he can do this and this. He plays one good game and the press come out and go, he's going to be Richmond's next captain or whatever, which might be true, but you're worried about Sam Taylor going 150. Jack Graham's going 146, 60.
Now, one of our listeners brought up a very good point this week, and I haven't really watched a lot of Richmond games lately, so you've been in charge of these. Apparently, according to this listener, it's who was I've got it down here on the list. It's Mitchell Swan, and he's saying that he's been basically sitting forward for most of the last few weeks and doesn't really get a heap of CBAs. So he starts up forward and then moves into the midfield after. But the good thing about this is, I guess, that if you start. Dual position status goes on where you start from the centre bounce. So if you're starting up forward and he's starting up forward a lot, he could be a DPP next season. So they reckon I guess the catalyst for this was actually getting bulk CBAs this week. And he's actually, does he make my CBA article? Yes, he does make my CBA article, which will be a bit later this week. So he's actually received a huge bump in CBAs this week. So maybe that's just all it is. And then now I think they moved. Well, I didn't actually see the game, but I think from the numbers, it looked like they moved MP400 Matt Parker out. That's his
Why
Twitter.
Has he got 400?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
I've been asking everyone that. That's his Twitter handle though. Right. They moved him out of the midfield. Maybe is that what happened? And now he just kind of ran in there and actually played the proper role that Dusty's left. That could be it.
Well, look, we know he can score. It's just, can he do it week to week? That's the big question.
I think when you're getting those CBA numbers. As opposed to what you usually get.
But what do you do as a keep? Yes, he's scored 146, but he's been very disappointing. Like, are you kind of giving him the Darcy Parish thing where when he's got the role and he gets that role, he's going to be a good scorer?
I don't know. I think if that listener is correct in what he thinks in getting an actual DPP, he might play midfield the rest of the season and just blow that away now. You definitely keep him as a forward. But I don't know if he's going to get it. It's very hard. It's still a wait and see. Like last week I would have said, get rid of him. This week I'm back on, all right, let's watch the last 2 rounds and see what happens. That's
wait
the way to go. Yeah.
Dan Rowley had 99 points and that halfback role is real. Looks to be a nice target for your black book for next season. So he had 14 kicks and 10 handballs, 9 marks as well. So just wanted to keep an eye on. I've been flagging this the last few weeks and just put him in your notes heading into next year's draft because he's been scoring well, but not well enough that maybe a few unastute
high 60s,
coaches
low 70s.
wouldn't be looking at. So just keep him in mind for next year. I reckon I'm with Zanks.
He will likely come onto my field in my Dynasty Grand Final this week because Toby Green has just been ruled out.
Right.
I have Toby Green and Dangerfield who went both out in the same incident. So yeah, good luck there. But now it looks like because Green's out, I'll have to bring Rioli on. Do you think it's the worst thing to happen?
No,
neither do I.
I don't think so. I think he's showing he plays that role nicely.
The other thing is if Dangerfield doesn't get up, I might have to play Bailey Scott, who had 20 odds last week. So.
Yeah. Liam Baker had 98 points and has found himself back in that midfield rotation. Look, he's another one who, in that kind of Jack Graham mould, where when they play the right role, whether for Baker it's off halfback or as you've seen Baker play also through the midfield this year, that he can score. But where to take him or what to do with him, I'm not too sure just yet. I think I'd be throwing him back in the pool, but would be one that I'd be looking at early in a draft next year. And apparently that there's no one good for North Melbourne.
Yeah, apparently 2G, either 2G4P or plotters, apparently, which sounds about right, really. So, we won't talk about any North Melbourne players.
No, sorry, North Melbourne fans.
Let's move on to the showdown. Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. I watched this one over a few beers. Tom Duda is the first player I'm going to talk about. And apologies to Crows fans who probably got their hopes up in winning this game, but didn't quite get there. But, good effort. But anyway, Tom Duda, 95 points. And it was just the perfect game for him, really. Port are just so ineffective going forward sometimes. There's just a lot of the time they just keep bombing it in on Charlie Dixon's head, and then it just comes to the ground. And then what was happening, Duda would just wrap someone up in a tackle or just get the crumbs off that forward. He had 9 tackles for the game, basically just doing that. So just kind of any time when the crumbs would come through, he'd just wear them like a glove and take them out. So Kays, you really like him as a fantasy option, don't you?
I do.
Because he's averaging 83 from his last 3. But if you look at the 3 before that, he's averaging 43 for that, and he's averaging 65 for the season. So he's a bit like a Sam Taylor for mine. He's just up and down, can go on little spells, little heat and runs, but he's probably his floor can get down there, but he's probably has less of a floor and more of a ceiling. Less of a ceiling, more of a floor. I don't know.
I think his floor's better. His ceiling's not as high.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that. Let's move on to the man of the moment, my favourite player of all time, Harry Schoenberg.
And I can't believe getting Harry Schoenberg tattoo because he lost this game against me.
Well, you can't just make bets after the game has actually happened and then tell me what I have to do. All right.
We'll get it done at Brew Boys next year.
All right. You're going to get a Port Adelaide tattoo on your face.
I didn't lose anything.
No, you lost last week though, so that was
not a tattoo bet.
Oh, so okay. You get to choose when the tattoo bet's coming.
Correct.
I thought it was a post thing. Anyway, 95 points for Harry Schoenberg. Look, he's definitely finding his feet in the midfield. He's just accumulating so much more of the footy. So you might have heard me change my tune last week. I can see him being like at least mid-90s averaging midfield. I'm not sure he's a 100-plus averager going forward. And look, I think he's like I said, the accumulation is going well. He's finding more of the footy. My concern, it's not really a concern for Schoenberg as much, but it's more of a concern for the Crows. But he had 9 clangers in the game, the most of any player on the field, and he had a disposal efficiency of 51%. And he usually only hovers around the 60s. But you got players like Keys who are he was ineffective again. He was about 50%, and he's pretty low as well. Matt Crouch, if he stays, he's pretty low. I think if the Crows want to play better football, they're going to need better users in their midfield, essentially. Now, I think it's probably more bad news for players like Keys and Crouch who's probably going to leave. I think that's probably the long-term thing. I think Schoenberg is going to be the one that stays there for the long term. But if those guys do go out, does he receive more attention on top of that?
Ben Keys midfield, mate.
I don't know.
Harry Schoenberg displays in it.
Like you can't. I'm just watching him. You can't play that many ineffective midfielders and expect to improve.
Now, Harry was second in the showdown medal.
Yeah, was he? Nice.
So that's how good he was. He had
was great.
31 touches, 10 contested touches, 6 clearances.
And 9
It was
clangers.
a high-pressure game.
Yeah.
Which usually means more ineffective disposals.
But his disposal efficiency is usually only in the 60s, so he was probably down 10% or so.
All right, so I saw your notes earlier this week, and I thought, don't you dare talk about my boy Harry like this.
All right.
Now, Harry is operating at 66.8% disposal efficiency this year, right here. Who's Port's best player this year?
Ollie Wines, probably.
What disposal efficiency does Ollie go at?
Oh, low.
He's at 68%.
Yeah, that's always been the case.
So that's poor. Now,
Ollie Wines are getting 150s each week. There's a bit of a difference.
Ollie Wines is like a 6-year player and Harry Schoenberg's second. Now, Took Miller, gun. Jack Steele, gun.
Yeah,
Trav Boat, gun. Clayton Oliver, gun.
All
they
low.
operate at 71%, so only 5% better than Harry.
70's the pass mark, really.
Well, okay. Christian Petrarca goes at 61%, so you're saying that Harry Schoenberg's a better player than Christian Petrarca?
No, I'm saying a lot of those players...
because they get the ball, they get the contested ball. You can't always have high disposal efficiency when you're rushing kicks out of packs.
That's true. I just think as a collective, you can't have all of those players in there, though. That's all I'm saying.
I would rather have a Keys and a Schoenberg and then get some classy movers out there. Because someone's got to get that ball for the Crows.
Someone's going to have to move out of that midfield though.
Probably Rory.
Yeah, Laird back to the defence. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just there's not room for all of them in there. But I don't think it's actually bad news for Schoenberg.
He's a gun.
Yeah.
He's a gun.
He's fine. Not sure he's going to be the 100 average. That's all. One day,
Got
maybe.
you again. Who can I convert you to next year? I'm going to find someone.
Well, how did you get me that time?
You just have conceded. You told me that Harry Schoenberg would average 60 this year.
You always said Justin McInerney's not in Sydney's best 22 at the start of the year, so...
That was one.
I've come around. We roll the tape, so I reckon we went through a few. Chase Jones, 83 points. Best game of the season. Playing defence, used on the switches a lot as well. So he had 5 tackles in that game too, but it was just so contested. But that helped. It was that sort of game. Would want to see some more consistent scores from Chase Jones, that's all. But good positive signs, bit of a role switch up this year, and good to see him actually put up one half decent score in a handful of games. Tom Lynch at 81 points. Look, I hope people grabbed him off the waiver wires for finals, but he's not going to be around much longer by the sounds unless someone's desperate and picks him up. But he kicked the goal, played that old connector role. Could help people win finals. Averaging 79 since coming back in round 18 and capable of averaging 80 for the rest of the season. So, yeah.
Interestingly, the Crows have said they're still in their best 22 for this season and should play the last 2 games.
What's that, sorry?
The Crows have said he'll probably play the last 2 games.
Yeah. Of course, it's just the age thing. I think the list profile, they're going to move a couple on.
Yeah. Oh, well, I suppose there could be the train of thought that if he's not there next year, just don't play him. Play someone else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, true. Willem Drew had 110 points, carried that midfield, and we've talked the last few weeks about him not really having a ceiling, but does this disprove this? I copped a few tweets actually about this. I'm not sure if one swallow makes a summer. Is that the saying? Yes. Someone stuffed it up in our group chat the other day, well, a few months ago, and it was quite funny. But yeah, it was a really low scoring game and it was pretty contested, so this suited him and he loves that sort of footy. I think we still need to see him do this a bit more often before we can say he definitely has a ceiling now. But he is getting his average up now. Like he's averaging 77 for the season. So we do say the 2G4P is the 80.
If you want to maybe pat yourself on the back, Hef, Willem only had 9 points in the last quarter.
There you go.
So he could have gone really ham, but just couldn't get through that ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't break through it. I love patting myself on the back, so I'll give myself that one, if that's what you can call it, even though he did get 110. Look, no, I don't dislike him as a player. It's just another one, like pretty similar to Schoenberg, really. That style of player, they're going to be huge scorers. But like you said, you did list off a heap of the guns down there, but all of those guys were pretty early draft picks. You know they're going to be guns from the start off with. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Alir had 94 points. The game just suited him. Just both teams were super ineffective going forward. Just kept pinging back and forth. And just allowed him to take heaps of intercept marks for the night. So he had 11 marks in this game. It's not going to happen every week. So yeah, a bit of an outlier, but he has put up a few decent scores. Not a bad loophole/streamer option here and there. Now, Zach Butters, he had 90 points. Have we 2G4P'd him yet?
You'd have to think so. He's very,
he was
good.
missing for so long. He only played 4 games before getting injured.
He's elite though.
Yeah, I know. He's rotating between midfield and forward. Should keep forward status next year, which is kind of juicy as well. Could be one of the top forwards next year, I reckon. If he does go into a full-time midfield role, he could be up there, especially with quite a few looking like losing him. And he kicked 2 goals in this game, and he had 19 touches as well. So he's just a gun. I reckon we just 2G4P him. No one's going to get rid of him.
Agreed.
See you later. And Miles Bergman had 84 points. And this year he's had 1 times 100 score, so 1 ton. He's had 2 80s and 3 70s. So, Kays, at the start of the year, you said he's a salary cap hype only type player. Have you changed your tune on that one? Do you think there's something here? Because he plays the right type of game for fantasy. And he's take a good grab, he can intercept. Running halfback flanker. Looks like a Hamish Hartlett's probably not going to be there next year. A few older players are going to be moving out.
Yeah.
Do you think he's?
I'm happy to cop the loss there with that call.
Yeah,
but honestly,
I don't think it's a competition as much as you do, Kays.
No, but at the start of the season, did you think he'd be playing every week?
I thought there was a chance. Just looking when I watched his preseason game down at South Adelaide, he looked super comfortable.
He has kind of been lucky in a way that all those 3 youngsters got injured. Hartlett's been out. So he's got a bit lucky, but at the same time, no one can push him out because he's been playing good footy. So very much kudos to Miles.
Yeah, I'm happy. He's probably a player I'm going to end up keeping next year just due to the strength of my list. But it's a good age profile now because I've got a few younger ones in there. I'll do Zanks' notes for... Oh, no, this is yours, thankfully. I'll do the next one of the Zanks'. So
the Saints-Swans game.
Versus
what a
Sydney.
game it was. Jack Sinclair, 102 points. He'd have to be super, super close to 2G4P, wouldn't he, Hef?
Well, he's putting up some pretty decent scores.
Yeah, 4th ton of the year. And he's just got the most fantasy-friendly role ever at the Saints in that back line. The runner and distributor of that half-back flank. And look, no matter who comes in or out of that team, he's kept that role. So got to love players who other players look to at all times, and that's Sinclair. Look, he's 26 years old. Definite keeper. I think he's a little beauty back there. So you'd be licking your lips if you own Jack Sinclair. Now, Dean Kent had 95 points. He's actually been pretty good. He's played 5 games on the trot this year for an average of 71, which is not too bad at all. His worst being a 59, and his best was on the weekend, which is that 95. But it has been a bit of an outlier from what we've seen from Kent. He was very, very good on Saturday night with 15 touches and 3 goals, but I'm not backing him for the Saints to have the kind of game they did again against Sydney and not too often. And he's just kind of one of those pressure players who can play well, but you just can't back him in week to week. So more of a tip of the cap to Dean Kent for his game.
I think that's the case.
Now, Tommy Highmore had 87 points, and he is a gem. I haven't seen a heap of the Saints at periods this year, but he was super impressive. He had 10 touches alone in the first quarter, ended the game with 21 and had 9 marks. Now, I speak about my love of Sam Taylor, and I think Tom Highmore has a lot of those qualities as well. He's a great mark, perfect interceptor, and uses the ball really well as well. Look, he's an exciting prospect. He's 23 years old. He's mature age and just looks ready. So if you do like those intercepting defenders like, Duday, Taylor, the guys that I love, I'd be more than happy to have a piece of Tom Highmore come the draft next year.
Just wish he did it earlier in the year to kind of, I guess for the salary cap players, do, more there. But then also it's kind of like probably someone, like if we've got ad drops, you kind of dropped him mid-season type thing. And then now he's coming to do, scoring some decent points heading into the end of the season. So But anyway.
Jackie Higgins had 83 points. He certainly wasn't missy on Saturday night. Kicked 4 goals, 1. Just buzzing around that forward line. Hit some contests at some really nice pace. So, look, there's no doubt he's a great coming forward, but could he be more? Obviously, went to Saints. There's a lot of guys in that engine room. I think that he's almost pegged himself as a half-forward flanker. I think that's what it is.
He's not going to be a midfielder, surely not.
I don't think so. No. But, look, he's very good at his craft. And, with him, Kent and Butler, the Saints' pressure was outstanding on Sunday night, which is a big reason why they knocked off the Swans. I think he's worth holding because if the Saints improve, we've seen that guys who play that half-forward role can actually be a very good fantasy scorer in the past. So if he can just tweak his game a touch and find a bit more consistency, I think he's definitely worth holding, but not a guy who once he might have thought he'd maybe be 120 averaging mid. I think if you kind of set the bar at, I reckon he can be a pretty consistent 80 averaging forward. I reckon that's where he sits now. Nick Caulfield had 71. Hef, your boy.
Oh, my ex-boy. He's definitely going to be dropped next year.
Thought he was pretty solid though in defence, and I just unsure why Rats keeps dropping him. But look, he had 15 touches, 7 marks and 2 tackles. Look, Sinclair's really taken that role off him.
That's it. If he would be Sinclair if Sinclair wasn't playing.
Yeah. Look,
so
on his
annoying.
Best form, he's actually a keeper, but at times he's just been not best 22 and in and out. So he's probably one who I think should look for another team because he could definitely really dominate at another side. Now, your boy Nick Blakey, finally, some good news coming from one of your boys, Hef. 84 points from him, and the role is real. Look, congratulations to all of you owners who stuck fat with the lizard.
That's me.
Yeah, well done. Defender status is incoming for sure next year. Look, he can take a great grab. He always has a crack, and he just took the game on Saturday night. Spoken about a lot. His move frees up Dawson, which is very, very good for the Saints. So, surprisingly, he's still only 62% owned. So, look, there might be a league or two where he's just still stuck in the waiver pool. Sorry. So, just have a look at him, and he'll definitely get defender status next year, and if he continues what he's doing now, he's going to be a very solid fantasy player.
Do you reckon there's any chance he keeps forward status?
No.
He's been on the wing for most of the season. Then
the last kind of month.
Jesus looks good running off the halfback flank though. He's like uncatchable sometimes.
It's because of the size as well, because he's quick and he's got that kind of little bit extra height than most other kind of halfback flankers. He
kind of reminds me of Jack Lukosius. That role.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. Harry Cunningham had 78 points, and he's the often forgotten, most consistent, unsexy fantasy player ever. Look, he really puts in a game under 60 and a great team player and a solid fantasy scorer. Had 21 touches. He is the ultimate utility. Just plays anywhere. 27 years old. Look, he's obviously not a keeper, but I'm telling you, my team has benefited from guys like this year when you think your team's in a window. He's a great pickup for sides like that because he doesn't really put in a bad game. You can put him on the field without too much risk. Yes, he might not score you a ton, but he's rarely lets you down. So just keep a guy like Harry Cunningham in mind next year if you are thinking about, contending. And lastly, for the Swans, Tommy Papley had 74 points. He's in a super rich, consistent vein of form. He's averaging 76 in his last 5, and what I like about what's happening previously is he's not relying on a heap of snags for the scores. Yes, he kicked 2 goals, but he's worked really hard up and down the ground for his 15 touches, and I think the CBA's had him at 16 on the weekend, so he's actually in there and almost doing a bit of a Jordan Ngori style role.
So what's the reason for the CBAs? Did McInerney play the same time in there?
McInerney hardly got a CBA on the weekend.
So are they just rotating players through there at the moment?
Potentially, yeah.
So it's kind of hard to get a gauge of what role people are actually playing.
Correct. They're flying, horses throwing a few magnets
just
around.
trying things before finals.
But look, North and Gold Coast coming up. He's genuinely a startable F4, F5 over the next week. I think this week, especially against North, I reckon he could take them apart.
All right, let's move on to Hawthorn versus Collingwood. I watched bits and pieces of this and listened to some of it on the radio, so hopefully I got enough of a picture of what was going on. But let's start with Lockie Bramble, 94 points. The kid's just a gun, averaging 80 from his last 5, 70 for the season, but he was slow to start. I think he had 40s and stuff to start off with, so he's going to be a very popular pick in drafts next year. And long term, I think he could slot in well either on a wing or halfback, depending on where he ends up. I know there's a lot of halfback flankers out now, which is kind of where he's playing a bit more, but he can do that on the wing as well, as we saw in the first few games too. And I could see players like him and Day being the future wingmen of that club. So get on board, I reckon, now, because I think he's going to have a bright future. Hopefully he gets back status. No, he's got forward status this year, which was weird. But he might get back status. Well, he probably will get back status next year, but I don't know how long it will last for, depending on who comes back in the back line. Connor Nash had 92 points. He was in the midfield again, and he plays with so much grunt in there. Hawthorn have been playing a real high-pressure game over the last few weeks, and he's been pivotal to that. Warple went down after half time, so you assume he's going to miss a week or two. I haven't actually heard what that was, but
it's an ankle.
Ankle, was it? Yeah, so that might keep him out for a little bit for the remainder of the season. Who knows? But Connor Nash could be the player that steps into his role and scores well for the end of the year. So listed as a forward, if you got a waiver pickup still going into your prelim and your grand final the next 2 weeks, could be a super handy player to have up there. Dylan Moore had 88 points, and he's actually been scoring pretty well playing up forward. Averaging 85 from his last 3, 80 from his last 5, so that's not too bad there. Probably not a bad keeper option going forward. I guess with Bruce near the end, Wingard rolling through the midfield more, he might be getting a few more opportunities up forward, and he scores well when he's there, so yeah, I don't mind him.
I love him. I started him on the weekend in my final and didn't let me down at all.
Except you lost.
But he didn't let me down. Other people let me down.
That's a team effort. Anyway, Jonathan Segler is back into the side with Reeves being managed. He had 84 points and he was pretty good. It's always stiff to drop him because he plays so well. I think the last time he didn't actually get dropped, he was injured, and then that brought Reeves back in. So I need him to play this weekend in my Dynasty final, so that I can put McAvoy back and have a defender to replace Brodie Smith. But anyway, look, he had 21 hit-outs, 20 touches and 6 marks. Like I said, going to be pretty hard to drop after that. And he's definitely fieldable if he does play this week. Will Hoskin-Elliott's probably the only one to mention for Collingwood. He had 76 points. And we talked about him last week, just listed as a forward, getting that run on the wing. It's just a great opportunity to score for him.